The biggest business event of 2012 were the U.S. presidential elections. Historically, markets respond poorly to uncertainty. The presidential elections decreased uncertainty. If you look at the most recent employment statistics, unemployment is at a 4-year low, partly due to the decrease in uncertainty.
I think one of the biggest business events will prove to be Hurricane Sandy. The damage from Hurricane Sandy was estimated to be between $60 and $70 billion. 8.5 million people lost power. In the state of New York, it took 13 days for 95% of the power to be returned. In New Jersey, it took 11 days. And now the governors of New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey are asking the federal government for $80 billion to help recover from this disaster.
I think one of the biggest business events of the year is the divergence in performance between tech stocks based on their ability to monetize business relationships. We see stocks such as LinkedIn, Salesforce, and OpenTable performing extraordinarily well based on their ability to demonstrate real value to businesses, while companies such as Facebook and Pandora have really struggled because of their inability to demonstrate real value creation opportunities to their business partners.
The biggest business story of 2012 is big data. Data is growing in variety, velocity, and in volume.
The biggest business event of 2012 were continued austerity measures in the Eurozone. Continued efforts to reduce deficits and spending have resulted in the second recession in a 4-year period. This has led to exploding unemployment and further economic downturn.
So I think that Hurricane Sandy was one of the most significant business events of 2012. Initially, it seemed like a really big deal because it was greatly affecting the local communities, but now, about a month later, we're seeing that it's actually having a much greater effect on the economy. For example, Ford's car sales are up by about 20,000 cars because so many people's cars were damaged during the storm. Also, immediately airlines were affected greatly, as well as many of the local businesses in the areas that were directly hit by Sandy. So Hurricane Sandy had a great effect on both local and nationwide economies in 2012.
So resolving uncertainty politically in the United States and China are big major global economic issues. The elections are over in the United States. That means we can focus on economic issues. For example, the immediate issue of the fiscal cliff, that's got to be resolved. The more long-term problem of the budget deficits. In the case of China, it's a little bit different. How does China move from a state-owned enterprise, the economy is very much controlled by the state, to a market-driven economy? How does banking reform take place? China had growth rate of 14% at the peak. Now it's more in the 7.5% range. What is that going to mean for the global economy?
I think that the most important business event of 2012 was the Facebook IPO, mostly because it raised a lot of questions about the value of our social interactions. Ever since social media started, people have been trying to both value and monetize it, and Facebook, being the major social media platform that it is, raised a lot of questions both before and after its IPO about whether they could actually get value out of their social media platform.
The biggest business event of the year 2012 was the continued resurgence of the American auto industry as it rebounded from the year 2006, 2007, 2008 to continue to be the centerpiece of America's economic recovery. Much was talked about the issue today about going off the fiscal cliff, but we went off the financial cliff in the year 2008. And at the center of that was looking at the American auto industry. Two of the major American automobile manufacturers, GM and Chrysler, took bailout money from the federal government, a very controversial decision. Ford decided not to take that money. And Ford, for me, is the centerpiece of that American resurgence. They focused on innovation. They focused on creating jobs. And when you look at the world and the economic vibrancy of the year 2012, you have to go back and look at the American automobile industry.